The Sleeping Beauty. Once upon a time, in a peaceful kingdom, surrounded by deep forests and shining rivers, there lived a king and a queen who loved each other dearly. They had everything: wealth, kindness, and a great castle, but no child to fill it with laughter. Each day, the queen walked alone in the royal gardens and whispered to the wind,
I wish I could have a child who would fulfill my love.
One spring morning, while she bathed in a clear forest pool, a little green frog leapt onto a stone and said in a clear voice, Your wish will come true. Before the year ends, you shall have a daughter. The queen hurried home with joy, and before the year was over, she gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. The bells of the kingdom rang, the people danced in the streets, and the king and queen held their daughter close, their hearts full at last. To celebrate the princess's birth, the king and queen held a great feast. They wished to invite all the fairies of the realm so each could bless their daughter. But when the royal servants prepared the table, they found only 12 golden plates and 12 crystal goblets. There were 13 fairies in the land, so the king, with a heavy heart, invited only 12.
We could only invite 12 fairies.
The 13th fairy, who lived alone in a far dark tower, was left out. The feast was glorious. The 12 fairies arrived in gowns of gold and silver, carrying their wands like stars in daylight. They placed shining gifts around the princess's cradle. When the music faded, they spoke their blessings one by one.
I give you beauty, Princess Vanning. Beauty that shines from your heart as well as your face. I give you kindness, so that all living creatures shall love you, and you shall love them in return. I give you a sweet voice and the gift of song.
The other 9 fairies gave their gifts to wisdom, grace, courage, joy, skill, honesty, forgiveness, true love, and peaceful rest. The king and queen smiled through tears of happiness. But before the 12th fairy could finish her blessing, the candles flickered. A sudden wind swept through the hall. The great doors flew open with a crash. Black smoke rolled across the marble floor like a living storm. Out of the smoke stepped a tall woman in a dark cloak, her eyes sharp as glass and her lips curled in a thin smile. Gasps filled the hall. The king rose to his feet.
Who dares disturb this holy feast?
Woman's voice echoed coldly.
Why did you forget someone?
The queen trembled.
You are welcome here, great fairy. We meant no harm.
The 13th fairy walked closer to the cradle, her black gown whispering against the floor.
Oh, what a lovely child. I also want to give her a blessing.
The king and queen exchanged fearful glances. Then the fairy raised her staff high. Her voice rang out like thunder.
When the princess reaches her 15th year, she shall prick her finger on a spinning wheel and die.
A blast of wind shook the hall, and the black smoke swirled once more. When it cleared, the 13th fairy was gone. The hall was silent, except for the queen's sobs. She knelt by the cradle, clutching her sleeping baby to her chest.
Please, someone save her.
The king turned desperately to the other fairies.
Is there no power among you to undo this curse?
The 12th fairy, who still had one blessing left, stepped forward. Her gown glowed like moonlight as she laid her hand gently on the baby's head.
The curse is strong, but I can soften it. The princess shall not die. Instead, she will fall into a deep sleep for 100 years until a brave heart carrying true love finds her, and with a kiss, awakens her once more.
The queen lifted her tear-stained face, hope flickering in her eyes. The king bowed deeply, whispering,
"Then we shall guard her until that day comes."
The next morning, the king issued an order across the land.
All spinning wheels must be destroyed.
Messengers rode through every village, gathering wheels and spindles into great piles to be burned. No thread would be spun again within the kingdom's walls. Years passed, and the princess grew into a young woman of rare grace and goodness. Her laughter filled the palace gardens. Her voice lifted the hearts of all who heard it. The fairies watched over her unseen, keeping her safe from harm. On her 15th birthday, when the king and queen were away, the princess wandered through the castle. She had explored every room except one. At the end of a narrow staircase, she found a small wooden door. Behind it, a faint whirring sound caught her ear. Curious, she pushed the door open. Inside sat an old woman, her hands moving gently over a spinning wheel.
Good day, Grandmother. What are you doing?
I am spinning, my dear. Would you like to try?
The princess reached out with innocent wonder. The moment her finger touched the spindle, she gave a small gasp and fell to the floor fast asleep. At that very moment, sleep spread through the entire palace. Servants stopped mid-step, horses bowed their heads, the cook froze with a spoon in hand. Even the fire in the hearth went still. When the king and queen returned, they found their daughter lying peacefully on her bed. Her face was calm, her hands folded like one in prayer. Tears filled the queen's eyes. She turned to the king and whispered,
If she must sleep for 100 years, then let us wait with her.
The king took her hand, and together they walked to the throne room. They sat upon their golden thrones, side by side, gazing out over their silent kingdom.
With our daughter. So be it. We shall sleep with our daughter and awaken when she does.
At that moment, the 12 fairies appeared again, shining with golden light. Their leader raised her wand and said gently, Your love is true and pure. Then sleep in peace, noble ones, until the dawn of her awakening. The king and queen closed their eyes, their hands still joined, and as the magic touched them, they drifted into deep, peaceful sleep. From the ground around the castle, thorns began to grow thick and wild. They climbed the walls, wrapped the towers, and covered the gates in an unbreakable web of green. Within a few years, the entire castle vanished beneath the forest. The path disappeared, and no traveler could find it again. But the story of the sleeping princess spread far and wide. Many brave princes tried to reach her, but the thorns tore their armor and trapped them forever. Over time, only whispers and legends remained. 100 years passed. One day, a young prince heard an old man telling the story of the sleeping castle.
They say a princess lies beyond the forest, but no one who enters ever returns.
Then I will go. If she still dreams, I shall wake her.
He rode to the forest's edge and drew his sword. The thorns seemed to move, twisting like serpents to block his path. They clawed at his clothes and skin, but he pressed on. The air grew heavy, the sky dim, but his heart did not falter. With every swing of his sword, the vines parted, and soon he stood before the sleeping castle. The prince entered the silent halls. Cobwebs hung like silver threads. The air was still. In the great throne room, He saw the king and queen sitting side by side on their golden thrones, their hands clasped, their faces peaceful in sleep. He bowed to them and climbed the tower stairs. At the top, he found the princess lying on her bed of roses, beautiful and still. He knelt beside her and whispered,
You have slept too long, my lady.
Then he kissed her gently. At once, the spell was broken. The princess's eyelashes trembled, and her eyes slowly opened, bright with confusion and wonder. The prince drew back slightly, his voice soft and steady.
You're awake.
The princess blinked, taking a quiet breath as she looked around the sunlit room.
How long have I been asleep?
He smiled faintly, relief and awe in his eyes.
Long enough for the world to forget. But not me.
For a heartbeat, they simply looked at each other, the silence between them warm and full of meaning. Then, as golden light swept through the halls, far below, the king and queen stirred upon their thrones, their hands tightened together as the castle filled once more with life, light, and the sound of morning. Soon after, the bells of joy rang across the kingdom. The prince and princess were married in a grand celebration that lasted 7 days. The king and queen, now awake once more, blessed them with tears of happiness. The forest of thorns melted away, replaced by a sea of blooming roses. The castle shone again beneath the morning sun. And so, after 100 years of slumber, the kingdom awoke to a new dawn, a world reborn through love, courage, and hope.